This conference will now be recorded.
Idea. Go ahead and call.
This conference will now be recorded.
This is, I'd like to call this meeting of the Port Orford City Planning Commission to order. It's 3:35. Let's have a roll call. Commissioner Lawton,
Here.
Commissioner Boydston,
Present.
Commissioner Lovendall,
Here.
Commissioner Thielen is here, as is Mr. Harrison and Ms. Shoji. Thank you all for being here. Chair comments. I'd like to be out of here by 4:15 for sure of 6. That would be an hour and 10 minutes, 2 hours and 10 minutes. If maybe we'll finish early. The minutes from September 10th. Are there comments or corrections on the minutes or additions or anything at all? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
I move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from our last meeting as written. It would be September 10th, Monday, September 10th. Yes, Mr. Harrison.
The minutes that have been submitted, if you look at the top, it says minutes made with the best of our ability at the video available at link. That will be corrected before the final minutes are signed and posted online.
Thank you. Thank you. I was going to say, you're doing a really substantial job of the minutes. Maybe you wouldn't quite have to do quite such a substantial job if it's, there was this one paragraph is, well, you don't have to tell everything, but just a main point. So, yeah.
Okay.
So you're doing a great job. I really appreciate it. So let's take a vote. Commissioner Lawton,
Yes.
Commissioner Boydston,
Yes.
Commissioner Lovendall,
Yes.
Commissioner Thielen is a yes also. So the minutes are approved as written. Yes.
I missed it. Who seconded the motion?
Commissioner Boydston
Okay.
seconded it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving
have a-
on.
Quick question.
Yes.
When Commissioner had resigned, it says her term has come to an end. Is that the
That's
case?
correct.
So it was the end of her term. She
Yes.
was just not renewing it.
She did not renew it. Yes. It was a 2-year term and that was the month that she was done.
Thank you.
Is there anyone online that would like to make a public comment on an agenda item?
No one online.
No one online. Okay, just us chickens. I'm going to move on then to planning matters, the DLCD grant update, pages 6 through 40. And Crystal?
Let's label our notebooks so we can talk with more clarity so people don't have to wander around. So take your first tab and put it on page 6 and name it definitions.
Handicap.
Take another tab and label it PUD on page 22. And PUD is 1728 if you want that.
PUDs,
PUD.
as in planned unit development,
Correct.
not public utility.
Department.
Page 26 will be CUP as in additional use permit. Page 26. Page 30 will be prefab uses. Page 30, prefab uses. Page 33 will be cottage residential. Page 35 will be,
I ran out of my tabs.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
oh, sorry,
I'm out too.
What was that site plan review?
there's some more.
And what's this called again?
36.
Page 35, site plan review.
There it is right there.
UD, and this one's another difference.
Number
The 17 started 1660. And then page 40 is the CUP extension, which you guys have been doing with Greg at the lead. But I'm taking it over and putting it into the, into the amendments, because amendments are what takes a lot of hearings and a lot of time and a lot of notice and things. And so we got to get that worked in. And when you're ready with those, we can proceed. The first thing, these are proposed amendments to use zones with new uses and changing requirements. I still have to look at the the comprehensive plan to see if there's any changes we need to do to accommodate this stuff. I don't think so, because the comprehensive plan is very general. But I'm going to look through it before we have our final meeting in December. And when I say final meeting, it's the final workshop. Then we go into the public hearings in January. So let's start with cottage residential and planned unit development concepts. So if you will look at let's look at page 7. Page 7, we have a definition of cottage residential. So let's look at that. I have it in gray. And it's come to the attention from several people on your commission and also myself that maybe the cottage residential stuff is not useful with so much description, because the cottage residential is probably something we could put in definitions and just accommodate those definitions in the PUD, because we already have standards and things like that. So if we can cut out some pages and still have a way to do that. And there's another reason why cottage residential maybe isn't needed. And we will discuss this later, but Greg has done and I've done some study too, of the tiny home regulations. And we think that they'll fit right in with what we're doing, that we don't need a special chapter to say that people can have them. So we'll go into that. So here's the cottage residential and the way that it's described, and it's in gray because some of these I would like to take out to speak by what people have suggested. 4 or more single-family detached dwelling units that are no more than 900 square feet in size, organized to comply with planned unit development requirements of the Port Orford Municipal Code. Cottage residential may proceed as one of the following: a subdivision processed through Title 16 and Chapter 1728. Rental or lease units under one ownership processed through Chapter 1728. So let's go first to the cottage residential section, and we will decide whether there's anything there that we can't accomplish just by what we already have. So cottage residential is on page
33.
33. Let's go there. I kind of think that when I wrote the cottage residential up, that I was trying to include a concept that the state was requiring of the larger jurisdictions and give it a little bit different name. But I've already seen that now they're saying that you don't have to, you can use their name however you want to use it, whether you're doing the same thing in the small jurisdictions or not. So we don't need to have our own section as long as we accommodate it. Okay, so
Wouldn't it just be accommodated under PUDs anyway?
that's what I think. Yeah. And I think that's what you and Greg talked about too. So go to page 33 and I'd have this little thing. This is under conditional use. You know how you do a conditional use. So first I have my questions in K and they're highlighted in yellow. And then we start into the things that are in this. But okay, the first one is conditional use. Okay, that's a PUD has its own thing and they're already conditional uses. So that's nothing new that we couldn't accommodate. Then on page 34, a minimum of 4 dwelling units. Well, we don't have to say that because in the Port Orford Code already, when you get to 3 dwelling units, you're in a multifamily. So I think we should just leave that we've always had, that instead of defining triplex and all that stuff, just we have 3 levels. Single household, duplex household, and then we go into multifamily household. And so I don't think, this adds anything. This kind of changes in the wrong section. I mean, if we were going to do it, we'd have to say 3, I think.
So the other one in that designated section would be apartment complexes.
Apartment complexes would be multifamily.
Yes, which are usually all adjoining apartments, correct?
Well, they were in our code, but I think we've defined it now so that people can join them in different ways, or have little cabins or something like that. We have always had people that were interested in doing that, but we always said they had to be joined so people would try to find a way to put a beam or something across that would connect them. But, why do they have to all be in one thing if we have a good definition that says they can be separate units?
So the definition then would change, that it could be separate units, i.e.
Yeah, well, let's look at it and see what we have for multi-household. So I think it's under dwellings is where we find it. Starts on the bottom of page 7. So we have dwelling, single household on the bottom of page 7.
It's a detached,
And
No, it says,
means a detached building or portion thereof.
then you go to the top of page 8, and you have 2 more. You have dwelling, multi-household, a building or 3 or more detached dwelling units, including 3 or more dwelling units grouped. on
All
an
on one
individual.
lot. All on one.
Yeah.
lot.
one lot.
With common elements, including but not limited to identical design features on structures, common signing, landscaping, parking, and installation of central services such as lighting, water, heating, refrigeration, and waste
So
disposal.
you're saying that one would replace, or would?
It would only replace where you see the bold print. What we had before was it's still there. It's just not in bold.
I think it's kind of replacing the word apartment to me, is kind of what it's doing.
We can put apartment in there. I mean, if we want. I think we have.
I mean, that's kind of what
We have apartment
people
house
refer
in
to
here, and it says
apartments.
C dwelling, multi-household. It's on page 7.
Yeah.
So you're thinking that the cottage residential would fit into the multifamily
We think it could.
concept? On the cottage, we're talking about 4 dwelling units. Multifamily, we're talking.
That's why that's
3.
another thing that would have to be changed if we were going to do that,
Yeah.
because we already have a division at 3.
Yeah, okay.
So then we have dwelling 2 household on page 8. And you can see what we had before and the words that we're proposing to add.
Taking out family and calling it a house.
Household.
Yeah, we can't be using the word family. Even though the state uses it some places and then makes a big deal, other places like you can't use it, then we just need to take it. Because they're using it in stuff like this, but they're telling us not to use it as a single word, that it's not appropriate. And I understand that. So let's just try to redo our thing and call it household.
Because permits are listed like a single family SFD.
I know.
So when is going to be SHD?
I don't know. I mean, we don't, those aren't what
MHD.
we do. That's building. Yeah. But I just can't see how we can call them 2 different things in our code. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So then, going back to page 34, I think it's 34.
Yeah, we're on 34.
So then we have all these things, but these are all the same kinds of things that we have in the PUDs. You know, like you can do it this way, or you can do it this way, or you can do it this way. It
So
just
the
seems
verbiage
like
would just be incorporated into,
it's already incorporated, I think. Yeah. The only thing that we might want somewhere is to say if they're going to do separate units, that we want them to have at least 3 building articulation features, which is down in 34.
minimum.
And that could be part of the conditional use permit language, that if we wanted that. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, in the PUD.
Yeah, in the PUD or even in the conditional use permit.
Yeah, conditional use.
Where we call out and say,
Right.
If you're having separate units for a multifamily or a 2-family dwelling or a 2-household dwelling or something, that you need to connect them by articulation features.
Mhm.
So we could.
I have a question. So on page 34C, it says cottage residential shall not be utilized for vacation rentals. I don't think we have that in in PUD? That was a special case, wasn't it? 'Cause
Yeah.
they were
we
going to be small and they weren't
Yeah.
really going to be functional houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I think we could just make sure that that's when they do a PUD, that they have to sign something that says right on the deed or something that it's not allowed for vacation rentals.
Right.
We do have that for the auxiliary units. It's articulated that way in there about not.
The
Does it already
ADUs.
say that?
It's
It's under
In ADUs.
ADUs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we may also want that, like if we're going to have these separate little, like
Right.
cottages
Cluster
or
Yeah.
something like that.
probably a good idea.
So, let me take some notes on that. So we want,
I wonder about that because there could be a situation where a planned unit development was
if it's for
nice
a
large
vacation.
houses.
Right.
I mean, why couldn't somebody have a vacation rental?
Well, that's the whole thing. You know, if you start going to these little ones, it's more likely that somebody will, I guess that's the thing, think that they're not real houses and start. So I don't know where to put it or if it even needs
Because
to
if
go in.
they're
But if-
encouraging long-term rental, I mean, part of this is
Yeah.
to have long-term rental.
Housing.
Well,
housing,
we
not
could put it
short-term
in
rental.
the, we could put it in the conditional use permit that, you know, I don't
Okay.
know, it's something we'll have.
Because it's a special situation. It isn't just buying a house or building a house on a lot, which you could do as short-term rental. But this is something, you're actually getting a break from the
special-
city. You're getting a special dispensation from the city
To be doing things in a unit.
to be more compact. Yeah, okay. So I see that. I can see
Well,
what
like
you-
it's a
maybe do that.
commercial enterprise. So if you say, I wanted to put cluster 8 little cabins around a lake,
Then that's what they would be. I mean, if it's a motel,
then it would be,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and that would be a different
Lakeview,
category.
Lakeview.
that'll-
Really-
that might take some more, but those might also be things that could be addressed in the conditional use permit, because all of this stuff is going to come to you as conditional use permits now, because we didn't have conditional use permits for a lot of things that
Mhm.
we should have them for, like a new motel or something like that. I don't think it had it. And so, you know, when you're doing a larger thing like that, you're going to be using accesses and,
So if it has to be zoned as a commercial, some kind of a commercial site to build a
vacation houses
vacation rental
as
little
opposed to,
development.
Yeah.
Good point.
So it couldn't go into a residential zone. It would
Could
have to
not.
be in like a commercial zone
and
or,
I think we might have to take care of that in the conditional use permit.
Yeah.
We might want to put it in here somewhere. I just don't know where it would go.
Yeah, it is a business.
Mhm,
It's not a home occupation.
right.
Okay, I'm just going to put a note to myself that CUP is the place to clarify
OSTR.
No, it's
what they're doing and what can be permitted.
right. Similar to what we have in the ADU. They have to sign something and
Mhm.
Okay, so we must be about through with this cottage residential. So the question is, I guess, is everybody comfortable with us removing this cottage residential and maybe fixing up a few of these things instead?
Sounds good to me.
Mhm.
How about y'all?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the idea, the concept of a cottage residential comes across in the other section. You know,
Let's go look at it. Let's look at the,
different for
Let's-
different zones.
yeah. But you can look back at the zones and you see them. But we would take out cottage residential. I've got them all in gray so that I could do that if we wanted to. So you can go back to the zones that we've gone through. Page 10, they start. So we didn't have it in R1 anyway. So we go to R2. Let's see if we have it in R1. I don't think we
No, we
have it as a conditional use. Then we go to R2 and we started having it as a conditional use,
No,
don't we?
no, no. we
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
have-
Yes.
page 13.
Page 13.
Oh, 13.
But
I
see,
meant-
we could take that out because we have planned unit development.
It's 13? What page?
Page 13.
Page 13, it's
Page-
highlighted.
At the top.
Yeah, the dark,
Hmm.
it's darkened out, grayed out.
And then you keep going through here and then you
4C.
get to the 4C.
Same thing.
4C, we have,
Number 12 was cottage residential, under conditional use.
Mhm.
yeah, we already have planned unit development in here. As we've always had planned unit development in these, but it was requiring 3 acres. Did it in, that I know of, in 60 years or what, 50 years that we've had this. So if we can step it up and maybe let it be on a smaller site, maybe somebody will want to do it.
Mhm.
I mean, a couple people did do planned unit development subdivisions. I don't know that they ever got built, but they were planning to do it up in the,
By D Terrace, wasn't it?
yeah, which one?
D Terrace up by Dee, wasn't there?
Maybe.
Or somewhere there's
There
one
was a
that's
couple of them
abandoned.
up there, beautiful views and stuff like that. They were trying to do it and they were trying to use those views, but I don't think it ever got built.
There's
Those
some
ones, but
houses
there
up
might be
there.
another one that
Yeah.
was. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're kind of clear on that. Let's go to the PUD 1728, page 22. So this starts to show you what we're putting in and what we're taking out for planned unit development. On page 22, and you go to 23 at the top, and it starts explaining that the idea is that people can put things on the property in a different format, where maybe the houses are clustered together or something like that. And so that they can use physical features that might be common features.
Ask you about something on page 22.
Yeah.
The, about the, well, okay, we're not doing ADUs. You want to wait till then. As a G, I wanted to talk about that, but if you'd rather,
We can come back. Why don't you take
Come
a
back.
note for that?
I have a
Okay.
note here.
Sarah,
right.
could you bring your mic down a little more so I can hear what you said?
Okay.
Thank you.
Could you use your mic? Bit there
I was,
too?
yeah, I think I was using that one, but is this one working? There we
Whichever
go.
one.
All right.
So page 23 talks about, says the second paragraph on page 23, and it's all new. A PUD may include varying housing types which could be integrated. Examples include subdivision. We could put cottage residential in there. We've got a definition of it.
Mhm.
Manufactured home park, RV park, and condominium development. The intent is to develop land and housing in a manner that creates an attractive, healthful, efficient, and stable environment with flexibility. Then we go into the procedures. So most of the procedure stuff starts to be the same. It's, you need a site plan, you need setbacks around the edges so that you can define things a little bit. You need, well, they go on to page 24. You need to show where you're putting your buildings, if you are putting buildings on it. Some people are just creating lots to sell for other people to put buildings on. You need to show the natural features of the site so that if there's wetlands or something, showing us that. So in other words, they're going to need an engineered plan. They're going to have to do some work ahead of time with the Department of State Lands to see if they're designated wetlands on there, floodplains, all kinds of stuff. So that's what all this is. And then saying that we want a lighting plan, that we want, how are the streets going to work? Which directions are they going to go? We need the utility sign offs. We need any covenants or conditions. And then C on the bottom of page 24 starts to refer us to the subdivision ordinance if we need that. If we don't need it, because we already have the right size site for what we want to do, and we're going to put everything on one lot and make some kind of
Just
you know,
going back to 23 in that application process, it says a pre-application conference shall be scheduled with the city prior to. Do we want to stipulate that it's to go to the planner or anyone in
the
particular?
city has a pre-application process that we use. We encourage people to do it if they're doing something that's got a little bit of complication, because otherwise they don't often understand that they're going to need people to be involved, professionals, to help them write it up. And some people won't. I mean, a contractor may be able to do a lot of this stuff on his own, depending on how, whether there's a bunch of physical features or something that need to be accommodated. So did I answer? Did you?
Yes. Thank you.
I don't know. I can't remember what you said. I just started talking.
I have a question. Is there a minimum lot size, or is that per the zone? For
It's in the zoning.
okay, we'll
So,
get there.
Yeah, well, so, like the 4C zone doesn't have a minimum lot size. So you could squeeze thing, and, you might be able to squeeze a lot of stuff onto a site and put together a few lots and get some things that would work in there and still meet setbacks and stuff like that. Like especially with your tiny homes
Mhm.
or cottage development or
Right.
something like that.
Okay.
So I have a follow-up on that. So in R1, it's listed as a 5,000 square foot lot.
Right.
If there was a PUD in an R1, let's say there was a PUD in an R1 and it was 3 acres of a hill and then a little bit along the road, they could put the houses together kind of,
Yes.
but they would still have to have in the whole PUD 5,000 square feet for each house.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they probably would have, because if they have a bunch of promontories or hills or something that they don't want to develop.
Yeah, but that's what that code, that's what that
You can
means.
put it all on a 5,000 square foot.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what it means when it says 5,000 square foot
Sure.
lot. If you put a PUD in an R1, that still holds.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 5,000 still holds.
They call it the density,
Okay.
the same density, but
For R1, that makes sense.
It seems like you could put a planned development in with incorporating smaller lots. They wouldn't have to be 5,000 square foot
you could in the 4C,
C, 4C.
or C.
Tenant mu.
because we don't have any lot size at all.
And then R2, I don't know.
And R2 has a 5,000 square foot.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what we have in the,
Well, let's say,
NMU, do we have one?
you bought 3 lots, 5,000 square foot lots,
Hmm.
and got to change the lot line. So it's now one larger lot, and you could incorporate a planned unit. You could do a development with smaller individual lots, like a cottage development.
In 4C.
You could do that in R1 if we zone, but I don't know if that's something we want to have happen. I don't know if we want people buying up all these lots and then adding that density in the R1. But we have big plots of land that people could still make the 5,000 square foot and divide it up and make a planned unit development.
one of the problems with Port Orford is for doing that kind of stuff. And I came across it in here a couple times when I was trying to figure out how we could do this. We don't have any parking regulations. And we have sent them to the council. I mean, not me, but the planning commission has over the years a couple times, and they have never been desired. And so even, when we were looking at ADUs and stuff like that, so I don't think it's going to be a huge influx, but there's going to be a few. And we hope there are.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
but there was no way to say you have to have an extra,
Driveway.
an extra something, because we don't even know what they have to start with.
Mhm.
And we don't even have so that's what started scaring me about allowing them to go into those residential zones and start just doing a bunch of housing that was not, and then we'd have to start requiring them to have parking for all that stuff. And we don't have we don't even have any standards to sit on to.
Right. Right.
I mean, I mean, in some ways we do have some handle on it, because most of these things in a PUD are going to have to come to the
Right.
planning commission
Right.
as a conditional use.
But a standard permit, your setbacks from the street should allow enough to be able to park a couple of cars in front.
Yes, you think so. Yeah.
But sometimes they don't.
What's that, 10 feet?
No, it's,
What is it?
I think it's 20, isn't it?
20,
Is it 20 from the street?
Feet in the front yard.
10 feet?
It's
I
10
don't know.
feet.
So, do we kind of have the picture?
Mhm.
I mean, and then we've got, we have all this PUD stuff. And, amazingly enough, when they get written up in the code and they have all these lines taken out and the bold and everything, they start looking like you really did it right until you start using it. But right now, they're so questionable because they even look questionable. We're throwing around all these words and throwing out words and putting in bold words. But that's how you have to do it so that people can see what you're changing.
It's very helpful to see the old for me now that we're
Mhm.
working.
So let's go to the other PUD section, page 38.
How you do it.
And this is if you don't already have enough land to accommodate, and you have to go into subdivision or land development. So this is chapter 16. And this starts saying how you do the tentative plan and the final plan, just like we do with subdivisions.
Mhm.
Looks good.
Well, we hope it's good, but
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that you have done this
So,
and you know
I
this.
think, I think it's okay to leave. I don't think we need cottage residential in every one of these, but I think it's okay to leave those references in there because as long as we have it in the definitions, people know that they can do it.
We can refer back to it.
Yeah, it's easier for them to track, I think.
Okay, so let's go to the next thing on here is yours, Greg,
Okay.
the
Um,
CUP extension.
So are you suggesting we leave the definition?
I think we should leave the definition. It's already in there.
Mhm.
Well,
It's already in our code.
it is?
Yeah, I think well, is it all?
No, we
Black?
added it. No. It's,
I thought we had.
it's black, but it's,
Maybe we called it. Oh, I see. It was cluster residential we had in there.
oh.
And then I changed
I
it.
don't think we did in our original codes. I
Oh,
think 2 years
yeah.
ago we talked about it.
I think it's in there.
Oh, there it is, cluster residential. Okay, I'm sorry.
Do,
Page 7 is where we're looking.
Okay, so
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 we
that's
had
from the
cluster.
code. That's from the code if you crossed it out. Okay, I understand.
And then changed it to cottage
Okay.
with a little different definition.
There was one thing we were going to come back to before we get off on
Yes.
Greg's
ADU.
in the, and
What page?
um, we were there before. Okay, page 22, item G. And maybe I'm misreading this, but
Okay.
you were
so-
not, you didn't
So
think-
G, I must not be very sure that this should be in here because I've got it all yellow and it's like notes.
Yeah, but that, your state, I took it to mean that you didn't think we should allow
I put it in
ADUs.
there first and I had 3 dedicated parking spaces and then I was like, we
No,
can't do that. We don't know how to
right.
do that.
But we still will allow ADUs in the 10 MU. No?
Well, that's for you guys to decide. I don't know if you want ADUs in the 10 MU or not.
So let's decide, do we want ADUs in the 10 MU?
You know, the 10 MU was organized for the south end of town to cause us to have a place where tourism had closer things, closer together where
Mhm.
people might walk a little bit. As opposed to our highway highway commercial. It's all up and down, Highway 101. And we do have a little bit of a cluster of things going there in the 10 MU. We have the port close by, within walking distance. We have the gallery. We have a couple restaurants. We have a couple little shops and galleries and things like that. So then people started, we also allow a lot of other things. We might look at the 10 MU.
I got my map here.
Well, then you have to look at the whole port development plan too.
I think
There's all kinds of goodies that they've got in that future.
So does anybody want to see where the 10 MU is? Do you have it?
I know it.
So I don't think we should the 10 MU too much with I think we should encourage certain kinds of things and maybe not others.
my thought would be, just offer that we do have some residential neighborhood, in the 10 MU.
Yes,
And I don't know if we want to preclude them, those
that's
residents,
the question.
to have an ADU, from having an ADU. They don't have parking anyway right now, not much of it, but some of them do. So I guess from my perspective, if someone has a single family home or in that area, that they should be allowed to have an
Let's see
ADU.
what we put in the 10 MU. Let's look at it right now. So the 10 MU is, and I'm glad we're talking about this, is on page 17 is where it starts.
Okay.
So the purpose, mixed use, maintain small town coastal ambiance and small character, et cetera, tourist, commercial. The uses, and a few of the words are changed. Single household, manufactured home. Manufactured home, that's just one little thing that you have to do when you have a manufactured home. It's not a bunch of criteria. Home occupations, hotel, motel, or other lodging, restaurants, club or lodge hall, medical or dental clinic, retail use, professional, and then light manufacturing kind of talks about crafty stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Facility is changed to family child care, limit of 10. I don't think I caught that. I think it's supposed to be 12 children. I'll have to go back and see.
Somewhere it says 12.
I think it's 12. I think I just didn't
Yeah.
see it in here. And then residential care homes can be there. Then we have any permitted use where the footprint exceeds 6,000 square feet is subject to a site plan review. And then we have any permitted use where the building length exceeds 125 feet is subject to a site plan review.
Mhm.
So site plan review in here never quite got connected with how you were going to do it. So, because we talked about all these things, but we didn't talk about where it fit in. So we've been saying it's a conditional use permit, but it really isn't. So go to page 35, and you'll see that it's my intent to connect it with, I'm going to say it's a conditional use permit. I don't want to change that idea that you can, people think a conditional use permit that you can stop it. And that's not true through the court cases. You can't stop it. You can only tell people other things. But because of that thought that you could stop a conditional use permit, I don't even want to change the site plan review to a conditional use. We had site plan review so that the planning commission could look and see what somebody's doing. And we had it come in for the gallery down there and make suggestions. And then there's certain things they have to accommodate when they're doing that. But we have to say how we're going to do notice and stuff like that. And so I want to, this is a placeholder. I want to say that we're going to use the conditional use permit requirements and things like that so that we know how to process it.
Okay, so
Even though it's just even though it's site plan review, it doesn't mean that, it just doesn't have quite the same teeth as a conditional use permit, but it still lets you see the site plan. So if the accesses aren't in a good place or something, ODOT could look at them or we can look at them or something. And
right. So to circle back to the ADU and the 10 MU.
so let's keep looking at this.
I've been thinking we are going to allow planned unit development. You have that as a conditional use permit under, do I, or
We
am I
can
wrong?
add ADUs.
But I'm just I'm just thinking that would be,
So let's see, where did we put them in the other ones? They're just allowed outright,
Mhm.
right? So do you want to do that?
I would like to. What about others?
yeah. Well,
Commissioner Lovendall, you're in favor of it?
Mhm.
Yeah, my feeling is anywhere you have if you can have a house and my grandma's sick, I want to build an ADU, I should be able to do that. I think it just kind of
Okay.
goes with the territory, wherever it is.
Okay. Sounds fine to me.
because I don't think it takes away from the coastal and the ambient, the neighborhood, small neighborhood. It's not.
I don't-
If we're going to allow a planned
Yeah,
unit development
it's
as a
fine with
coastal.
me. I just,
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, where were we?
I think you were going to start.
Oh, I was going to do the CUP extension requirements. So I went again from the comments that we had last week. I added a couple of things, and I just wondered what you guys think. Are we code ready on this?
We extended it to 2 years versus, what was,
We extended it to 5 years, absolute maximum, 2-year initial,
right?
and then 3 very deep applications with a fee, 40 prior to the expiration. And then item C also kind of is discontinuance of a conditional use for 12 months shall constitute expiration of the conditional use. So if somebody's just messing around,
Mhm.
they lose their conditional use.
Right.
Now,
how
what
do
does
we-
that look like and how do we
Yeah, how do
enforce
we
it?
determine that?
Yeah, that was my, that was a question I had. if discontinuance, how do we know it has been used in 12 months and how, I mean,
I
just
think
what
we
would that
need to
look like?
say that the applicant needs to provide as to what has been done for the conditional use, as opposed to just say we're going to discontinue it if we don't see that. Because how can we judge that?
Right,
I
there
mean,
needs
Yeah.
some kind of evidence that
I mean,
says,
that's the problem we've had with a conditional use coming before us, is they don't tell us. I mean, if I were coming in to get an extension and people told me to tell the planning commission what had been done and they don't come with anything,
Yep.
they're not making findings.
That's right.
That's why people to do stuff. So
So that was just a question I had. I mean, we talked a little bit about that, but that came up. And it kind of, when we look at the structure, okay, a construction of a foundation and shall satisfy the commenced and diligently pursued the requirement. And I guess my question is, if they do that in the first 12 months of their 2-year period, and they don't do anything in the second 12 months, I mean, they have two years, obviously, because we're giving them 2 years to do something, even if they don't do anything for half of that time. Is that correct? And I just want to make there to be clarity. C, I think we just need a little more of. Do you have an idea about that, Greg?
This is my idea. You got an idea?
No, I just think, and I kind of agree that we need to, I just don't know what that discontinuance looks
they need
like.
to show evidence.
Like, we have to, how are we going to determine that they didn't do it? I mean, and does the fact that they've done just the foundation satisfy commenced and diligently pursued?
So maybe it falls under revocation, where it says the planning commission, upon notice to the permit holder, may revoke a conditional use permit for any of the following reasons. A, failure to comply with any prescribed requirement of the conditional use permit. One of the requirements is you've got to work on it for 12, discontinuance of a conditional use for 12 months shall constitute expiration.
Discontinuance of a conditional use. It should say lack of progress.
Or discontinuous, because a conditional use could also be for having a baseball game in a, or, I mean, it could be using a facility.
Right.
There's structural conditional uses and then there's building constrictional.
Right.
Conditional uses. So yeah, so
Well, each of the conditional use permits plan, correct? You start with a whole plan. And
Right.
when you do construction, when you're building a house, when you pay a contractor, it's this percentage must be done before you get this much money, and this percentage must be done before you get the other part of the money. Is there a way to do something similar here where a certain proportion of the project gets completed?
we looked at that and it's hard to determine. There are so many different projects and so many different ways of assessing the cost.
Mhm.
Joseph, did you have your hand up?
He does.
Finally, guys noticed.
No, he has.
I'm right here. You can just hit me on the,
He went
hit me
to
on the
sleep
foot.
that way.
Your mic's not working, sir.
Testing, there it goes. My reading from this, I believe it would be more appropriate revocation, because when I read the discontinuance of a conditional use for 12 consecutive months shall constitute expiration of that conditional use, I think like if there's an RV park and then it stops being in business for 12 months, or other, conditional use that it stops being what it was supposed to be, even if that.
Right, okay.
And
Yeah.
then if they want to reopen it under that again, they would just have to reapply for the conditional use. Because if there's something substantial enough going on that do what it was supposed to do for a year, then we should probably review it.
So that would fit that case.
I think so.
C kit fits that case.
Yeah.
We're talking about a different,
Like
Okay.
building, because
they did a foundation.
Well, but this is this appropriate to have this discontinuance thing in the expiration of a condition? Or should it be under a different section than
Should
the
it be under
extension?
revocation?
Yeah.
Oh, so we should move that to revocation
I
then.
think so.
I agree.
And
What are we moving here first?
So item C, which is the discontinuance of conditional use, is really not under expiration of a conditional use. It should really be under revocation,
Yes.
the heading revocation. So we're moving it down. It would be item E on the bottom one,
Okay.
probably.
I'm a little troubled by this statement. The planning commission may deny the request for an extension. It's right in the middle of a conditional use if new land use regulations have affects the applicant's proposal.
Yes.
I don't think that's a reason. These other reasons are more important because when you get a permit, if you're complying with what you were told to comply with, we can't say, oh, we've changed the rules now on you.
Yeah, I wondered about that too, but it is in other cities. Other cities have that, but maybe it's not legal.
Well, I mean, it's wrong.
Well, kind of like when you get a building permit, and if you don't finish the project within an X number of time, then they hit you up for another fee to extend the permit out another 6 months. And you can do that so many times, and then at a certain point, they go, well, now you have to file for a new permit because you get so many extensions.
So we maybe need to explain it better.
That's different than the one
No, it's a building permit, but it's kind of like it's conditional use permit is similar in a way, isn't it? I mean, that you're telling somebody you can do this project, they don't complete, so they come back and say, I need an extension. And then what happens at that point?
But the point that she's making is that the under which your conditional use permit or your building permit or whatever would be the date that you got it, not.
Right.
And if something else changed, you
Right.
would still have the rules that the date
You started
origination,
with.
from
Yeah.
the origination.
which is fair.
Yeah.
So, but I did see this in another one, so I mean, we can take it out. It's probably not a big issue.
I'm wondering if something dramatically changes in the land or the landscape of it to cause, a conditional use to not be valid anymore. There might be circumstances. It'd be interesting to to contact and find, because it could be pertinent.
Call who?
Call the cities and say, what is this and how?
We don't have the right to,
Mhm.
well, I mean, I'm just thinking of when an application comes in,
Mhm.
we set the requirements based on what the laws are at that time.
Right.
So really,
Yeah.
it's more pertinent if they're not accomplishing.
That's what I was gonna say. If
Yeah.
this might be, if they're going along and all of a sudden they haven't done anything and things have changed and they want an extension.
But
They
that
haven't
maybe is taken care of in one of these other things where we're saying if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing,
Mhm.
it should be revoked anyway. I mean, not revoked, but.
Yeah. It's kind of, I know this law kind of in general, these things are, again, once you pay your fee and you kind of, go ahead, Joseph.
What if we added something like, because it's supposed to be deny a request for an extension, so what if we or what you guys put in the requirement that they have to address new land use regulations during the extension.
Yeah.
That could really put somebody in it. I mean, like, we're doing all these new regulations, and then we just say to somebody who's in the middle of something, if they're complying, and then we say, oh, by the way, we changed the code, so.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. I'm
And,
just
and I
wondering.
mean, I can see ways that the permittee could be abused by a city if they wanted to change the rules around. I'm in favor of just taking this out. I don't think it's gonna, it doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, that's really, I'm
There's-
just interested in
There's
why they
gotta be
put it in
some
there. how they
other
put it in.
reason why, and you're
this
taking
is
it
my
away if
draft.
they're
I'm
not
taking it
showing
out.
evidence that they're doing anything.
I know you took it out, but I just want to know. There might be,
Well,
it might be a good reason,
I
but
think
I
I'm
have.
once bitten, twice shy.
To make some, hold people to the fire and say,
Right.
Well, yeah,
you're done,
but I don't want to be onerous or
We're hardly being onerous.
especially when there's no.
We're actually extended
Yeah,
this.
right.
You extended this to 5 years when initially it was like 1 year and then
I know.
may extend 1 year.
I know, but
I'm a 2+1er.
I'd rather have a little longer with real teeth. And I hope these are real teeth. Is there anything, what else, any other ways this can be slashed? And
I'm just still bothered by the fact that we're not somehow defining what kind of progress has to be made or not
yeah,
made.
it's really, did you read through the codes that I submitted the last few times?
Yeah,
There's all different ways, and usually they just fall back on substantial progress, and it's up to the people to decide, because it's hard to say.
well, what if the people provide what they consider to be substantial progress? What if we put the burden on them to say, okay, if you give us an extension this time, we'll have this done, so that they're telling us what they think they can accomplish in that time. We don't have to tell them, but they should be able to, at least within a year's time, tell us what they think they'll accomplish. It may be that they just get all the permits needed from state, and that's an accomplishment. But if they don't get it by that time, we at least have something to hold them accountable.
Right, well, all the necessary permits have been issued and satisfactory documentation is provided. So that's a given.
one.
They
That's
have
one.
to do that.
Okay.
You know, there's so many that they can show evidence of. I don't understand why they come in with no letters, no emails.
I do too.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
We all did.
you know, when I'm arguing something to protect my business or with an insurance company or something, I put it all down there. I don't like just say, well, you know, I'm just trying to do.
I do the best I can, but
You're,
it has to be substantive in my mind.
I think maybe we need a little form and they need to fill that form out. And that's the best we can do. You know, say, please provide the following. And we could put it right in here.
Documentation. of
Documentation,
progress
letters,
Toward the,
Mhm.
and responses from state agencies where you are working on permits.
so
The only thing is, I recall that this wastewater golf course situation, the only thing I recall is that they were hung up by, what was it, one state document or approval or permit, one thing. And I'm thinking, well, you mean you can't do anything else on this project while you're waiting for that?
there was a lot of smoke going on there. That
Oh,
was under
yeah.
old rules.
Yes, which is one of the reasons why it bothers me that we don't have a little more substance, something that we ask of them.
I think we have quite a bit more substance than our code that we have now. I think this is this is the strongest one I've seen of all the ones. I mean, if you've looked at the ones I submitted, and I've looked at many of these, this is like boilerplate compared to almost all of them.
Okay.
I mean,
Joseph Smith.
So what are we taking out on this?
request for an extension is made in writing. A request includes documentation or special or unusual circumstances that exist which warrant an extension. So you get number 4, no material changes of surrounding land uses or zoning have occurred. So maybe we have to
We
throw that
certainly
out too.
hope they have occurred. Because if the city's just sitting here static, I don't think.
Crossing out 4. Cross out number 4.
And the thing
Very
about
scary.
this part regarding new structures, we define that one thing that defines commenced and diligent pursued requirement is if they put in a foundation. For some reason, I'm thinking, do we really need that in there?
And some things don't even have foundation.
Yeah, they don't
It's-
have foundations,
it's-
and they can just put a little
It's
foundation
the
in.
most common one you will see.
I know, but I mean, most conditional
Sorry.
uses don't even have, they're not talking about a building.
No, they're
Right.
talking about a use, but that's in here. Unless use of the property permitted by the conditional use has actually commenced. That's that one.
Oh, that's good.
That's the first one. The second one is if there is,
It's nice to have you working on this and then I can complain about it.
yeah, right. I like people complaining to me. It really makes me feel important.
At least you're. Craig, Craig,
Mr. Harrison is going to clear this all up.
Well, actually, it was a change of topic, and that's
Subject,
why,
good.
yeah, subject, which is why I was raising my hand and waiting. Are you okay if I bring it up so we
Go ahead.
change gears here?
I need a break.
All right, this is just a quick thing. I would advise change the word apply to the planning commission to something more along the lines of the planning commission may grant the extension upon receipt of the following.
The commission may grant up to 3 extensions.
It basically making it that the planning commission may grant the extension, not necessarily for it.
May
I think
grant
we need to say the applicant.
But
an extension.
the applicant may apply, because down here we tell them how soon they have to apply.
Yeah,
So that's maybe why Craig put
Applicant
doesn't apply.
has the burden of proof.
I tell you, are you on B still?
I'm just changing
sorry.
something in here. I shouldn't be jumping ahead. I changed number 4 to the applicant has the burden of proof for,
So you left 4 in. The applicant has.
I took 4 out.
Oh, and you
And
made.
the
4.
applicant has the burden of proof for
Or it is
showing evidence.
the responsibility of the applicant to provide evidence of progress. ...
mhm.
And burden of proof is a common thing that we
Yeah, I like
use
burden
in
of proof.
here always
May
anyway.
grant an
And,
extension.
or if you like it better the way you're saying it, that's fine too. But I think we just have to say it's on them, and that gives us something to say, you haven't done this. And they, you could not grant it and continue meeting if they come with something that's half-assed
Mhm.
and see if they can do better.
May grant
Like, do you have an engineer that could provide this?
So for example, if you were going to
based on
run a pipeline from a sewage treatment plant through
upon
town
application.
and the property adjacent to the sewage treatment plant,
Upon
you go in and
application, the planning
you
commission.
clear it
oh,
every
okay, yeah, that works
year,
too.
does that constitute
That would be
progress?
one of the things.
It's not substantial. That's just clearing you're just
That's
cutting
maintenance.
vegetation. That's,
The other thing
example.
is,
yeah,
does it count that they haven't been able to get financing, for instance?
No,
Because,
that's not unusual,
It-
special or unusual circumstances.
so if they haven't been able necessary financing after the first year, they can be denied an additional use permit or the use permit extension based on that
Their permit can be revoked.
because of that.
It's
So that's not,
Move that to E, it's under revocation.
okay.
And when they get the
Else?
financing, they can come back.
Yeah.
Start over again.
So are we gonna, are we gonna have an application form for this?
Mhm.
An actual application form that says, please fill it.
Joseph says yes.
Yeah, I've been starting to whip something up, and when I have a couple free minutes here and there,
It's great.
it's not worth bringing to the commission yet, so I'm happy that we're still trying to iron out the rest of it, and I figure I'll bring it in when we had the rest of this sorted out, so we're not looking at multiple things regarding this at once. Plus, I need to know what that is before I can really get the
Yeah.
form together.
So, Crystal, you said the applicant has the burden of proof. Which one were you talking about there?
If we crossed out 4, we could put in, the applicant has the burden of proof for showing evidence of progress on various fronts or progress for the permit, for
Has
the
it
use,
burden profit for,
the approved use or whatever.
has the burden of proof for showing
Well,
progress? Oh, for showing progress.
evidence
Evidence
of progress
of progress
for the approved use.
for the approved use. Okay, so we have now kept number 4. So part B, we've changed to read, upon application, Planning Commission may grant up to 3 extensions of 1 year maximum duration each based on compliance with the following criteria. We've changed under B4, we've stricken out
Stroke out.
number 4 and replaced it with, the applicant has the burden of proof for showing evidence of progress for the approved use.
Should that be substantial progress?
No, because if they've gotten substantial progress, they wouldn't be needing to file for an extension.
Another term of our term. And we've taken item C, the discontinuance of a conditional use, and we've moved it and made it number E under revocation.
Mhm.
All right, anything else we would like
And
to?
are we taking out the planning commission?
Yes, may deny,
Okay.
yes. Is everybody happy? Okay, we have,
I guess it wouldn't hurt, to put something in here that would say that if conditions have changed, do they have to come back and reapply, or does there have to be a public hearing? I mean, I didn't like the wording we had for if conditions change, just saying like, well, the conditions changed and you're out of it.
Right.
But I do feel like there could be a procedure, because if they come to us and say, well, we can't do this now, what you said, because this and this is happening, are we going to accept that? Is that,
But we have to have the types of conditions.
I know.
I think we would and we could and we should. If a person, if a permit holder came to us and said, well, you have let such and such go next door and now I can't do this because of that. I think this is, we're just,
My
we're-
company.
So what would we do? Reopen the conditional use permit? Or,
I think we would.
so
I
they
think-
would have to pay another fee, or
Mhm.
we would have to decide that at the
We'd have to figure that out. If it was the city was in fault, we would, we would want to do the right thing.
The city was at
I
fault.
think the less we write about that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
I
the
think so.
better we are.
Less is more.
Okay.
Okay, should we move on? Thank you.
We're done.
Are we moving on to,
Do you want the
oh,
wording for that?
tiny homes?
Oh, tiny homes.
Shall I send it to you?
Yeah, just send it to me. I'd
I'll send it to you.
appreciate that.
So it was in your,
I'll send you a corrected version.
You have this?
it's in your email. If you,
Thankfully.
Oh,
You can take it.
I didn't
The reporting,
you didn't print one out,
recreate it.
she's going
Oh,
to share.
Thank you. Need one?
Yeah.
You got one of these? Got an extra?
I
No,
saw it
'cause I'm gonna
online,
use
but,
this.
didn't, is it the whole thing?
What are we doing?
So, we want to talk a little bit about tiny
Oh,
homes.
tiny homes, yeah, tiny homes.
So that's kind of your baby so far.
Oh,
Is it?
Well, he did a bunch of research.
Oh,
so-
good.
so I was looking, just an introduction to this, I was looking online, I was going to call somebody at the state to see, to find out what a permanent dwelling was. You know, is where you can put non-permanent dwellings. Anyway, I was looking online and I found this tiny home regulation, a background brief, which really kind of laid out the territory for me. Permanent dwelling, there's three kinds. There's permanent dwellings, temporary dwellings, and transitional tiny homes. Permanent tiny homes, temporary and transitional, and they fall into categories that are well established in the state already. So permanent dwelling is the first one. So that's the kind you would put on a piece of property, put a foundation on it,
Mhm.
and it would be anchored to the ground. Could be an ADU. It would be, and the one thing it does have to have is if it had a loft, it would have to have a sprinkler.
Mhm.
That's just the way it is.
There's no egress.
Can I?
Yes,
And just for your information, this is a whole new thing because the wording that we're taking out of the code is wording that says you have to have 1,000 square feet. And that was always applied to 1,000 square feet for a manufactured home. But for years, we knew that we were supposed to treat them both the same. So we said stick-built homes had to be 1,000 square feet. Then all of a sudden, tiny homes come in and people are clamoring and wanting to know what they can do, and we need to clarify it in our code. And some people did go out and build smaller homes than the 1,000 square feet because some city administrators maybe let them do that, but because they couldn't believe that we were treating them the same, that was a law. But under our city attorney and planner, that's the way people were doing it all over the state. But you do see some places that other things happened. But now it's going to be in code that you don't have to have any limit.
so the other piece with a permanent dwelling is the contractor clause. Or so if you build a house, you can do your own plumbing and electrical, or hire a contractor, but you can't just hire anybody to do that. So you have to go through state codes for everything in your tiny home.
Mhm.
If you do a temporary one, it stays on wheels. It's basically an RV. Might just call it an RV.
Right.
It doesn't go through the building codes. It's not tied down. You might want to tie it down, but it's not on a, it's not permanently affixed.
Is that then go through the DMV?
I'm sorry?
Does that go through the DMV registration?
The DMV may or may not regulate it. You can get a trip permit for them, a one-time trip permit. So you can haul them on the freeway. You can haul them on the highway.
Mhm.
They don't necessarily have to have. They can be. There's a whole section in the DMV about that too, which I've looked at. So it's a possibility, but not necessary.
So can someone live for 2 years in one place in a temporary one that's on wheels and call it a temporary dwelling?
It's just like an RV.
Okay.
And you can live in
basically
RVs now. That's,
Now you can live in
that's
an
new.
RV, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, fairly
Yeah.
new.
So you can put it on a piece of property and live in it. It can't be an ADU
Mm-mm.
because we don't have, in our town, it can't be an ADU.
Because we don't allow you to live in an RV outside of an RV park in the town,
But there's no enforcement.
Right.
There's no enforcement, yeah.
as we know.
One of
So,
these days.
yeah, so an RV tiny home is a vehicle with or without motive power. It's just temporary. And there's also a park model RV, which is bigger, but it's still an RV. And then the other category is temporary, and that transitional housing. So that's for, they're established and regulated at the local level. That would be for like temporary, like homeless or farm workers or that kind of thing. That's just temporary.
Or
Excuse me,
our
transitional.
code. Our code has that. It's not
That's right, it does.
the zoning code. It's a different code entirely.
For 12 months, you get a permit for up to 12 months or something like that to have one.
Mhm.
You got death in the family, or you got to have something.
Mhm.
It's the legal way to have a
Hardship.
hardship. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the third. So that's basically RVs. And that's, when I think of it that way, it makes it a lot simpler. And now that our code doesn't have, as Crystal said,
Won't have.
or won't have a minimum size for houses or manufactured dwellings, it just basically falls, it just sits in our code without actually having to be addressed directly. That's how I see it anyway. Is
When
that
it
kind
comes
of?
to taxes being paid for the permanent structure, what about the temporary structure? What is the property tax on, well, a permanent one would have property
Would
tax.
be assessed as real property.
Yes. What about the temporary
I
one?
think it's a different kind of real property. It's
It's an RV, you don't get property
yeah,
taxes on an
you don't
RV.
pay tax
You
on
might
it.
be renting someone's space
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they might be paying taxes on their RV park. Would be.
So if someone puts this on their property, on their lot, they would be required to put it on a foundation, is that correct?
If it was going to be a permanent structure, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would be an ADU.
It could be your house.
Mm-hmm.
Could be your house, could be an ADU.
Yeah.
I don't think so. ADUs can't be considered a,
Oh, you're talking about with
Primary
wheels?
residence.
Not with wheels. No, I'm talking about a foundation one. No, it can be a tiny home can be an ADU.
or it can be a permanent residence
Or it
as
can be a
a
permanent
single.
residence. It's on a foundation.
family.
It's got plumbing and sewer and all that. It's just a small house.
Now, are we saying the ADUs, did we say in here that they had to be a percentage? What, smaller?
No, we did not. We just said 600 feet maximum.
Ah. So we're not saying they have to be smaller than the house or anything. We didn't
There is,
go to it.
there is something about that. It can't, it
Well,
can't
some
be
towns do,
Some
yes.
towns have. it.
ADU.
I'm looking right now while you
It has
guys
to be
are doing
smaller. It
this.
has to be no larger than a third in Portland.
Yeah.
Someplace says 2/3, I think. Go ahead, sir.
I thought we did have a percentage maximum, just not a percentage minimum in our,
We had a number, a
and
fixed number of 600,
Yeah, it was
Oh.
600.
but maybe we should have a percentage. I don't know.
An ADU is permitted to have a maximum footprint of 600 square feet,
Oh.
including enclosed habitable space. That's what we have proposed.
I don't see any reason that your ADU couldn't be bigger than your tiny home. I mean, why not? Who cares?
Bigger than your tiny home.
Yeah. Grandma's got big tastes. She's got a grand piano. I couldn't fit it in. I don't know.
It
So
doesn't say that, does it?
someone could put in on a lot, a temporary, a one on wheels and never put it
No.
on a foundation.
No. Oh, if they already had a home, but not on a naked lot. You can't put a temporary structure on a naked lot,
Naked lot.
Except temporarily.
except temporary with a permit.
Yeah.
While it's under
Like
construction.
when you're building a house
Yeah.
and you have
Right.
temporary.
That's common. And that's a conditional use.
But I think there was something in the code that said the ADU couldn't be larger than a percentage of the
Yeah.
existing home, which means if you put a tiny home on there as your permanent structure, your ADU is going to be really
It's
small.
gonna be dinky. It's gonna be
But we
dinky.
don't.
A dog
we don't
house.
Have that in our proposal,
Micro.
I don't think, do we?
We
I'm
don't have
looking
that.
at it right
I
now,
don't see,
page 20 through 22.
Where did I see?
I mean,
I might have read that somewhere there.
I read somewhere.
I've looked
but
at
I
the-
don't know if-
We might have had that at one time.
I've looked at the Portland code, I've looked at several ADU codes, and some of them do have that.
Yeah.
But, and so, yeah, some of them do have it.
I think
I don't know why
Manzanita
we would
has
need to
it.
have it.
Yeah.
No, we just say it, that you can't put an ADU on a lot that's less than the minimum lot size.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So that's.
Yeah.
And that you can't put an ADU on where more than one dwelling unit already exists.
Mhm.
while we're on ADUs, if I may, on page 22, item I, an ADU shall obtain separate connections to service pipes for sewer and water from those of the single household dwelling on the property where there is a need for capacity subject. That's really awkward. I wrote that and I think it's really awkward. What I really want, and it's an obscure way of saying this. An ADU may use the same sewer and water service pipes if they are adequately sized per Oregon Plumbing Code. That's what I want to say. Does that make sense?
In other words, the ADU can attach to the existing utilities
Yes.
that the home has. Because if you make that ADU get their own sewer and water, it's going to be 18,000.
Yeah, I mean, the city may do, the city may do what they want to do, but I think this is what we say we want.
Well, I think an ADU could be an attached dwelling.
It could be in your basement.
Right.
Why do I have to get it? Yes.
Right. So you're going to get a permit, which will increase your property tax, but it's not necessarily you don't have to hook up separately to sewer and water and power.
Yes.
Will impact
So
the
you're
water.
going to change that, Greg?
Yes, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change it to that wording and I'm going to send it to Joseph. I'll read it
Which
again.
one, this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll
We
send,
have to put it in.
I'll send it to you. I'll send,
You're doing it for the minutes, but I need it for the,
yeah, I will send it to you.
okay.
It's right here. I'll send it, Joseph and Crystal.
You could call those utilities and save a couple of words.
That would be better.
An ADU may use the same utilities if they're, well, because I want to say pipes.
Because we were going after the water in this.
I'm going to,
Okay.
an ADU may use the same sewer and water service pipes if they're adequately sized per Oregon Public Code, because it's about size is what it is. That's really I mean, unless you want to amend it or change it.
Or
Then
connections to
existing
water and
utility
sewer.
services.
Just say connections to water and sewer, unless you really have to have pipes in there. You really want to have pipes?
I'm sorry.
You could have just water and sewer. You could say water and sewer.
But he wants to make sure that
I want to be
pipes are
clear.
adequate.
You want a pipe here in there.
I want pipes in there.
Okay,
You should say mains or, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
that's cool.
May use the same sewer and water service. How about service?
Like
Leave
that.
pipes off.
I like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do have the water curtailment issue, but that's something the city has to deal with,
So,
right?
I'm sorry.
The water curtailment issue.
Mhm.
We grant ADUs and they tap into the water.
The city may want to charge a fee for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That's out of my,
Right, that's their issue.
yes, sir.
And being the person who looks at the paperwork for this sort of thing, someone could, at least what we've done that's similar to this is they could get rid of a bathroom in the primary dwelling to add the bathroom in the ADU, because then it's more of a reconfiguration than an expansion of the service.
Right. Well, but I can go, if I came to the building department
Mhm.
here, the planning department, and said, I want to add a bedroom to my house and a bathroom.
You can't add bathrooms.
I can't add a bathroom?
So right now, under the water curtailment, we have restrictions for additional bathrooms,
Oh, I didn't know that.
which is why I'm saying they could take a bathroom off of the primary to put it in the ADU.
makes
I've
it
done,
tough.
I've seen a couple remodels, and that's what I got to. That's where I came. That is the conclusion of a conversation between me and John Isidore where we talked about it. And he basically said if they're not adding bathrooms, then it's a reconfiguration. It's not an expansion.
Got it. So I didn't realize that. Okay, that's good to know that.
It's kind of scary how Joseph is becoming so smart about it.
Yeah.
I know.
So we don't have to
Sounds just like
mention
my
the
parents in
curtailment
elementary
issue
school.
in our,
So you can't add that master suite to your house at this point with the
what
wraparound,
master suite?
the wraparound shower and
5 shower heads.
the,
Are you, have you seen the bathroom lately? It's 5 years. It's still.
Okay,
Okay.
where are we at? Let's get
sewer pipes.
cracking on here. We had enough fun. So
But anyway.
we're on ADUs. Are we done with ADUs?
Yeah, we kind of went through them again.
I actually had a question on, you answered the first question, which was, or an earlier question, which was if we have code that says we must have a 5,000 square foot lot size to build a single family dwelling in R1, if we put a PUD in R1, they're still going to have 5,000 square feet for each
That
house
much-
that you put in it.
That much density.
Okay, okay, good. That's the, what about R2?
I think we are allowing more in R2 because R2 had multi-household dwellings
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
They have-
and R1 does not.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
good. So it's not in there.
So just because we're running out of things on the paper doesn't mean that we're done.
Oh, no, things on the paper?
Well, I mean, we didn't go F, G, H, but there's other stuff that we haven't looked at.
Well, let's look at it.
Okay, so the two things we should look at for sure.
Okay.
One is the review of prefab uses, section page 30.
Excellent.
So when we go to page 30 of our code, this is under conditional uses. And you look at page 30 and I'm taking out that whole section about prefabricated structure because it doesn't pertain anymore because the state building codes requires them to have foundations and stuff like that. So I talked to the guy at the building codes. They won't tell you that. They won't tell you your code's wrong. They just say, well, you can have whatever you want in your code. I mean, but we do this. And then they say what they do. And the is that this is no longer pertinent, that this is old language from a time when prefabricated structures didn't have any building code regulations. So consequently, I struck through it all because prefab structures are now allowed right with
Stick-built homes.
yeah, and they're also allowed in manufactured home parks. So that's not something, I mean, this business about, like this says seismic loads applicable to the city and all this stuff. Building codes regulates all that stuff now.
Right.
So I did leave in temporary prefabricated office structures. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I think it might be. In other words, if somebody was setting up something to be an office like, and this doesn't happen much in Port Orford because we just have little subdivisions going in. They're not going to set up an office or something. But we had it in our code and I don't care if it's in there, if it's not hurting anything. So you might want to read through that and see if you think it's bizarre. Joseph has worked with it already. But this is, Joseph actually called ours a temporary structure. I don't know if it is. What made you think that was a temporary structure, that one for the bottled rot?
The fact it wasn't getting its own foundation.
So, but the building codes says how it's going to be
Anchored in.
anchored in.
Yeah, but according to our municipal code, at least from how I read it, if it has a foundation, it's permanent. Otherwise, it's temporary. That's what I took away from when I
So does
reviewed it.
that doesn't fit with what I crossed out here, does it?
Mm,
On page 30. Or what's left in here?
Well, this is called a permanent foundation, with perimeter walls, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
Okay, so this temporary one probably needs some work. Talking about like an office or something for a subdivision.
Or like
Well, you might have, if the port ever gets developed and a contractor shows up with his, office, his job shack, we used to call it, it's going to be there could be there for a year or two. And
No, I think we should have this prefab. I think
Just leave it like it is? Or should structures and other,
I think the big distinction would be whether or not people will like be inside of it. So if it's a building like the bottle drop isn't something people will be spending time inside most of the time, or like a statue or a plaque would.
okay. Prefabricated structure, maybe placed on vacant or developed parcels. Do we want it to say in association with construction project? Or should we
Well, it
just
says
say,
construction or similar event.
or we could just say, or other
events,
or other use,
similar.
Construction
or
or other
other
similar use.
other
Well,
purposes.
yeah, the word office though really nails what it is.
Mm.
It's not a habitable, it's not a,
Right,
I mean, you can use a lot of things as an office, like
Other
that.
purposes not for habitation.
right.
Yes,
Okay,
I think that nails it down. For use, but not habitation,
okay,
or overnight use, maybe, or
okay. And then I think the rest of that could probably fit.
yeah, that's good.
And because that would have fit what you said, Joseph. If we had
Mhm.
other purposes not for habitation.
Yeah,
Okay, let's just change that then. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. Then I want to go back to the CUPs. So we've seen these, this is 6. So we've seen the CUPs in the code. In other words, we have them all there and they say consistent with such and such. And it's always this 1732-050, additional standards governing uses. So then we had quite a few in here, but there was quite a few we didn't have. So as you go down here, you get to B, and that's the first one where I've made changes. So I lumped a whole bunch of things in here together because basically what we need is a site plan to see what they're doing and then to have a chance to affect what they're interfering with other people and stuff like that, or to just make minor changes or whatever. So I started listing all the things that I thought could happen here. I mean, not likely. They're getting rid of churches, not building them, but so residential care facility, multi-household family dwelling. Then we added school, motel, hotel, public or non-profit community facility, fire station. And then I took the wording from the Battle Rock MU that requires a site plan and just stuck it in there, or any large structure more than 125 feet in length or encompassing more than 6,000 square feet, whether in one structure or individual structures under common ownership that constitute one facility. So I stuck all those in there and tried to make what the kind of things we want on the site plan could be for all of them. Would be similar, adjacent streets. That's B.
Slope,
Identification of the zoning, yes, of the zoning. Slope. Do I have slope in there?
topography.
Okay, good. Footprints of all the proposed structures, if they have them figured out.
Awesome.
Proposed sidewalks, proposed landscaping plans and maintenance plans, proposed setbacks from adjacent residences, proposed building heights,
Thank you.
shelters or structures for mechanical equipment, etc. Documentation of any state licensing that is required for the use. And if they don't have the documentation, we need to look and see when we're doing these conditional uses, what are they required to do at the state? We require that in their conditions of approval, and then they bring it in later.
Where do we get this 6,000 square feet?
Out of the Battle Rock, that's what we have in the Battle Rock for where they have to do a site plan. So to keep from having to do over the Battle Rock, I just thought we should leave that the way it is.
Mhm.
And then take a common figure for these other things that are conditional uses in different zones. And that kind of sets a standard, because I didn't know. But we had quite a bit of discussion about that other one before we put it in the Battle Rock.
Hmm.
And so that,
I'd like to just say here, I got a warning from Joseph about our time, so I just wanted to just mention that. Also, I noticed back on page 26, at the bottom, there's got conditional uses generally. Number 3 addresses the very point we were talking about earlier about conditional use permits. The city may require assurances to guarantee with the standards established and conditions imposed in granting a conditional use. So this is our reference.
Yeah,
for the
that's a
form
good-
that Joseph's going to create. So they can
That makes sense.
agree to do it.
Yeah.
What you've addressed.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's our
Have you ever,
performance.
we
bond.
have them for streets and stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that's probably overkill for something like this, but
No, but I mean, it's something we could think of for some of those. I mean, when they come
It's a
in
big
for a
enough
conditional
project.
use. Yeah.
Are you done with temporary
Well,
or with this? With the
we
conditional
are
uses?
right. So
'Cause I had
there's a whole bunch more conditional uses here that have a whole lot of changes. You want me to just,
No,
quickly?
well, I've got one, yes, quickly, I wanted to go back. I have a thing on
Go ahead.
ADUs. I wanted to just, but like, keep going.
okay, so
I don't want to stop the flow.
we, flow is probably not
I like the
relevant,
flow.
but
Flow's
page
good.
28, we have new regulations for manufactured dwelling parks. Yes, there's state laws, but there's certain things that we have to do rather than when they come in, just say, well, I think there's a state law. So by plan, we have the requirements from our code, and we're just putting them in here that we want to see those things. And some of them we didn't have. We don't always have, like minimum 10 feet front yard, this and this. C-zone doesn't have any of that. Starting to build a big building, you can at least be 10 feet from somebody next to you.
Okay.
And if it's, doesn't need to happen because you're all in a lineup on the street with other commercial buildings, you can see that. You could do a variance. But if a building's just put in out there and it's huger than everything else, and they're setting off, they need to have some setbacks and stuff from other little tiny businesses and stuff.
Joseph had a comment.
I'm pretty sure Crystal just answered it. I would just like to be clear. So on number 8 on page 29, it is supposed to be 10-foot minimum on all sides.
Okay.
I think so.
That's-
Okay.
Are you affirming it or are you asking?
I'm making sure.
I don't think we had any.
Yeah.
So if we don't think
Okay.
this is appropriate, this is the time to change it.
No, I'm not questioning whether or not it's appropriate. I just want to make sure it was supposed to be 10 feet on all sides. Because I'm so used to looking at our existing code that when I see this, I think 10 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet.
But those are residential ones, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's why I was just making sure.
Well, I think the idea here was if you put in a manufactured dwelling park, so that's kind of a thing on its own.
Dense.
That's different than anything that it's going to be next to. And those setbacks, they could put their landscaping and stuff.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion on number 9, the next one?
Yes,
We
please.
changed that to 7 feet.
Mhm.
So a 7-foot fence is standard.
Okay,
So 7-foot fencing and 7-foot, 6 feet in height of the plants.
I thought 6 foot was standard.
Fence?
it used to be.
I think 7 is, isn't it?
I thought 6, yeah.
I always thought it was 6.
That's what it was in building codes.
And then if you're
I'm wrong. Well, maybe because you put a lattice up for another foot.
depending how close you are to the street, then it has to step down.
Oh, I'm wrong. That's just, don't listen to me.
Well, I don't know.
But it doesn't
Our
seem to
code-
apply in Port Orford,
Joseph, what is it?
what
What
I've
is it?
seen.
So my understanding is at least at the county level, it's 7 feet, but as
Might have gone up.
as planner, I usually advise people 6 feet because then they aren't getting too close to that limit, at least if I'm remembering correctly.
They might have changed it.
And 6 feet from the lower side on either side. So if if it's a tilted area that you're putting the fence in, it's 7 feet from the lower side.
Well, I don't know. Whatever.
Well, I don't want to put it in here wrong.
Well, don't,
Yeah. Well,
Maybe we should look at other jurisdictions and see what they do.
We could just
can look
say,
at
7 feet wouldn't, I mean, that's the
what the
county.
state says.
I would
the state is what that 6 and 7 feet initially came from.
Mhm.
And it used to be 6 feet, but you guys are saying it's 7 feet. So maybe you change it.
I'm
Do
sure
we
it's-
have to go along with the state at 7 feet?
Yeah.
If it is?
Whatever the state says we have. to
On this,
follow.
we do because
Oh.
that's their limit.
We can't go over what they say.
Well, can we go under?
Yeah, you can
Because it's going to be pretty obnoxious. A solid
Say
wooden
6.
thing.
Let's not change it. Forget I
Oh,
even said anything.
6 is good.
I don't, whatever. I don't want to make anybody think.
I
they
don't
got
know either.
obnoxious
And
stuff
it's,
around here.
and they don't answer. They don't call back. They're too busy, I think, in building codes. So it's hard to get the answer.
Yeah.
To call up to Salem to get it usually.
Joseph, did you have?
Yeah, I hope this is relatively quick. Can we just remove A, B, and C and say, in a zone where that has no setbacks, the setback for the use shall be 10 feet from all property lines?
There you go.
Mhm.
So how do you want to say it?
Basically remove A, B, and C and shall be, and remove as follows. So that it ends with the setbacks for the use 10 feet,
At least.
at least 10, minimum of 10 feet from all property lines.
Sure doesn't allow for much parking.
Didn't we on the
Yeah.
conditional use permit for that?
You mean,
um,
Okay, so we have more,
can you do parking?
we have more stuff going on in page
Parking
30
setbacks?
and
We just talked about
31.
that earlier.
We have RB park rules.
Like in residential, it's usually so far back to
Nobody
allow
cares.
for the
I'm
right.
listening. I just,
That's, things are changing, so.
We're going to get rid of cottage residential.
I guess it depends on what size your vehicle is.
I was just saying, didn't we determine higher height for vegetation for that RV park that guy's putting in
Yes,
over on Madrona.
that's why we need to say minimum.
Yeah.
So that
Minimum.
we can require trees or something if we want.
I'm back.
Okay, I think we've,
Are we
so,
done?
well, on 31 and 32, but you guys really made these rules. These were the rules for the
Oh,
RV park,
parks, yeah.
and I just put them, wrote them up. And I could do the same thing with this, on page 32, L, where the setbacks should read the way.
So we did, you want to change the 10 all around?
10.
Is that what you're,
Well, I guess we'd had him do 5 feet.
and let him skate?
I don't know. I don't know how you want to do
I
it.
mean, an RV park is the same thing as a manufactured home park in a sense.
Yeah, they're similar, but I've spent so long looking at the code, just defining the two different ones that I don't want to say that they're the same thing.
All right, well, let's move on then.
I don't- Okay, these are all new language. And then, residential, I think that might be the end.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Good job, Crystal.
I don't know.
Yeah, because we have 7 feet.
Do we have any other comments on any of this?
No, this is an incredible process. It's a hard process. And the way you're doing it is so helpful
Really great.
to get through. Very
Well, and
helpful.
it's helpful I want you guys to understand what you're doing, not just bring you something. Like, the bigger cities, they just throw it out and then it gets adopted the next time. And
Okay,
I don't think you guys would stand for that.
No.
And I don't want you to.
I think we can close this chapter of our journey.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to 6, discussion items. Planning clearance is approved since last meeting.
None. I have one that I am still working on. It is for repairs and structures on the Idaho property that had the fire.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Right?
Can you the house that's being built on 12th Street?
Yes.
Can you tell me about it? I just was curious. Is it
The one that's next to the wastewater treatment plant.
well, yes, not right next to it, but it's, yeah. It is near, yeah.
There's a lot between that.
There's a lot between.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have water, so I'm wondering what he's doing for water.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I do remember both that lot and the lot that is between it and the sewer plant have put in, or the wastewater treatment plant have put in building packets. So I know that we reviewed it at a certain point. Going off of my gut, I want to say that they put in their building application before we put the well ordinance in, so they would have been grandfathered as long as they had a contract for the well.
Do we have evidence of that?
I should have the paperwork somewhere in my office. I just don't remember specifically. I don't remember everything that comes across my desk with photographic memory, unfortunately.
Well,
Huh.
we can talk about it later.
Well, that was a question though.
That's a question we need answered.
The guy that, I met the guy that did the excavation there. He said, oh, the city's been giving us grief about not having water. I don't know who in the city was doing that, but
They don't have water. So, we just make sure that we're being fair and following the regulations.
this probably, there needs to be a mechanism whereby you go through the planning clearance and it gets sent to the county before the permit, because they'll issue a permit and we might have missed something. I think it needs to come back to the city.
We talked about
It
that.
does.
It does, but who's doing that? I mean, is that happening? We passed something that that has
Council
to,
passed one.
city council, that we're supposed to come back so that you can see that it went
Been
through.
approved.
Right.
Yeah. And if there's been any changes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I tell people that when they come in, and the county always send out monthly reports of all permits that have been issued. And has had a permit issued back then, I can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that that's happening.
Maybe they need to be contacted, huh?
Yeah, but back on the 12th Street, if it isn't a well, I know that there are a good amount of plan. The infrastructure wasn't put in place. The utilities were paid for previously, and some of them go back to like
Just need the
60s and
evidence.
70s. Yeah, I
That's all.
would have to double check, but
Okay.
I've written it down, so I'll look
Okay.
when I have time.
And the Idaho Street property, it's repair and what else did you say?
Which one?
Idaho Street,
Idaho.
the
Oh,
burn?
That's where the fire was.
Yeah.
fire. They're tearing down some of the destroyed structures and they're putting up different, just like storage facilities, basically, not like
Mhm.
not like to be rented out, but from what I can tell, more like just sheds so they can store materials while they're building the rest.
I'm just wondering what's left to repair on that property.
Repair may have been the wrong word. Rebuilding would probably be the better term.
Repair this fire damage.
It's the end of the day for me, so I'm not as selective with my words as I should be.
All right, thank you. Anything else on that, on plan clearances?
Well, I just want to make sure that every other place I've worked, you had to have, if you're going to put in a well, you couldn't get your building permit until the well was done and certified by the state.
Mhm.
So they have to provide documentation that they have a well that's approved and met all the flow tests and all that stuff before they can even apply, or definitely before they can get a permit. So
Mhm.
you don't end up with somebody saying, oh, I'm going to put in a well, and, it's maybe they can't, maybe it doesn't test out, maybe it's not, the flow doesn't work. And
Mhm.
so we got to make sure that people, if they're going to have a well, that they have documented proof that they have a well log.
It would be a well log.
Yeah, that's all governed by the state.
Yeah. All right.
We don't want any sneakiness going on.
Anything else? Okay,
Enough.
then I'm going to move on to other business. City planner comments.
Yes. I would just like to say that I am so happy that we have Joseph.
Yeah.
None of this stuff can ever be perfect because it is so much detail at those counters. And I never thought we would find a replacement for Patty, who was very good also. I mean, yeah, they make mistakes because there's a lot of stuff coming at them all the time.
Mhm.
And they need to give answers and they don't have the information to give the answers half the time, in total. And so ever since Joseph's been here, I have been so happy for Port Orford that we have him to grow with the city. And that's just what I wanted to say. I can do a lot of stuff from my office, but you can't really be a planner from your office. A lot of the stuff happens right here at the counter in the city. And Joseph was eager and willing to take this on. And I'm sure that he's gotten worse because he's gotten so much work, which is also what happens. You just keep getting stuff piled on if you're willing and good. But I just wanted to do a shout out for Joseph.
Thank you.
Kudos, I
Second the motion.
agree, absolutely. And in fact, I've seen growth, incredible growth in what you're doing and how you're doing it since I've been on the commission. So I'm impressed too.
Make sure you're
Thank
getting
you.
all that now.
Put it in the minutes.
Minutes aren't going to, I was told not to make my minutes quite so detailed.
I like your detail. I want to tell you, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I also have one, if it's appropriate for
Yes,
city
you're
planner planner.
you're in the category.
Just letting the planning commission know that we talked about a little bit, the RV park conditional use permit was approved in December, so that extension could potentially be coming up. At the time, I believe you guys, all of you, most of you, not Mr. Boydston, obviously, set the condition being for substantial construction being the demolition of the additional dwelling.
Does
So
not happen.
it has not
hasn't
happened. I talked to Mr. Clark today when he came in and let him know that the extension deadline is approaching, and he either needs to get substantial construction or apply for the extension.
Okay, thank you.
And that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I woke up in the night, the other night, and I thought, we're not supposed to have to keep track of it. It's supposed to be the people, but honestly, that it's not in their purview half the time.
Good job.
And then I come here and Joseph says, I've been working with him.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It looks like he has those both rented. That might be a problem.
Planner comments,
He got rid of one of them, I think.
planning commission comments.
Good meeting.
Good meeting. Thank you all.
Write it down.
Thank you all for, man, it's really great. I didn't know if we'd get here. And thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you all.
Really great, above and beyond. Future meetings next. So our next meeting, we're going to have whatever business we have. I might bring a topic, which is enforcement, which I am pretty keen on.
Yeah.
Our next meeting will be November 12th at 3:30. Is that on everybody's page? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Were we going to
It's
set a date for
Adjourn
the
at
next workshop?
5:36.
5:36.
A date for what?